Hi, and welcome to Chamber Chat via Zoom. I'm Danielle McFadden, President of the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. So excited to have one of our newest members on today. We have Chris Porter. He's with the Town in the City Festival right here in Lowell. I'm so excited to talk about it. How are you?
I'm excited to talk about it too. It's one of my favorite subjects. Great to be with you, Danielle. Thanks for asking me to be on here with you today. I'm psyched to be a new member, and Lowell means a lot to me, and I'm very honored and grateful to be able to, work on events here and play a part here in my old hometown.
So I was just going to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. So you said my old hometown. So you are a Lowellian.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Lowell, Lowell High graduate. I even went to, when it was called Lowell for a couple of years, UMass Lowell, though I ended up graduating from nearby Brandeis University. And I just, but actually the roots of me getting in the music industry and concerts and things actually is in Lowell, because when it was called WJUL, it's WUML now, I was, DJ and music director of the station. And so that gave me a little taste. Originally, I thought I wanted to get into radio and media and everything, TV and that sort of thing. But I really got so into the whole music industry end of things, having interest in, starting a record label, which I eventually did, and managing bands and booking bands and being in a band for a short time. I just really immersed myself in the whole. I wasn't much of a Lowell music community, a little bit of one, but it was all like around Boston and Cambridge. I really immersed myself in that. And eventually, after I graduated and, like I said, I had a record label for a little while. It's called Presto Records. Oh, which actually had a Lowell tie too, now that I think of it, because it was called Presto Records because it was named after my grandfather's restaurant. He had a place called the Presto Lunch over on Middlesex Street.
Gosh, how cool.
Many years. A lot of old timers remember the Presto. It was like where the train station had been at one time. And he was a Greek immigrant and struggled along, and then, had a family, put 3 kids through college, and, had this great, breakfast lunch restaurant called the Presto. So that was inspired me. That would be a good name for a label. So I should mention that there's a Lowell tie there. So I did that, and and then I had an opportunity to book a venue in Alston called Bunratty's, which was all kind of dark, smoky rock and roll room, and I was psyched to work on it. And that was really more of my foray. That's where I really found my niche with music, is really about putting together shows and promoting them and bringing people together, really. I mean, I often say I'm in the music business, but I'm really more in the people gathering business, and music's that conduit for it. But that was my roots, me booking, shows. And then I ended up booking the Middle East Club, which is still around over in Central Square in Cambridge. I worked there for a while. And then I ended up sort of working directly for Aerosmith. They had a venue called Mamakin Music Hall. It was over on Lansdowne Street behind Fenway Park. And I worked on that for a couple of years. It didn't last too long. It was only around 4 years, but I worked on the first 2 years of it. And then, the music industry or entertainment industry is so networky. You get to know people from all over the country, all over the world. And I got to meet someone who was based in Seattle and was working on this festival called the Bumbershoot Festival. I met her at a business conference. And we got to know each other a little bit. And she was like, oh, well, and she was telling me how she lived in the Boston area for a while. I'm like, oh, yeah, no kidding. Where was that? And she was like, well, in Arlington, but my family actually for many years lived in Lowell. And I'm like,
no way.
What? Lowell? Wait a minute. What's this? Her name is Renee Duff. And we're still great friends to this day. She was my boss for a number of years. She lured me out to Seattle to work on the Bumbershoot Festival. It was a company called One Reel. And we did a lot of events, but the Bumbershoot Festival, which I'll get to in a second, that was my main thing that I worked on. And I really got into the whole festival world because of that. But to double back on the Renee Duff story, so the Duffs, so her dad was the president of Lowell for a number of years. And I distantly knew her youngest brother, and they lived maybe about 8 blocks away from my family home. Talk about a needle in a haystack destiny story, Danielle. And here I was in Los Angeles at a little luncheon. We're sitting with some people, mutual acquaintances of ours. I didn't know who she was, and she kind of piped in to hear more about my club and everything. And this was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we became friends and stayed in touch. And then about less than a year later, it was months later, I'm thinking to myself, so this is in was this kind of near the end of 1996. So, and I was getting a little tired of what I was doing. I was thinking, I loved booking shows and being a talent buyer. Was the operative word for working in the venues. And I thought, well, I need to change. Maybe I need to go to New York, find something bigger. And out of the blue, she called me up and saying, well, '1Reel is this growing company, and we need some more help booking the Bumbershoot Festival and among other things. And would I be interested? And I'll tell you, Danielle, I mean, I lived, Northeast all my life. I thought my big move might be to New York, but that would be as far as I go. But Seattle, like, wow. But one thing led to another. They gave me a great offer. I thought, well, the plane goes both ways. If I don't like it, I can come back. And if I love it, well, then I'll try it out for 2 or 3 years. 18 years later, I was still there. Wow. And, I worked on Bumbershoot. I was, the programming director. So I was overseeing, all the programming and booking, mostly the music I worked on, but I overseed it all for a few years. And we worked through 2014 on that event. It was well, it's still sort of in existence, but it happens where the Space Needle is. It's called the Seattle Center. It's the site of the 1962 World's Fair. So it sort of has this campus feel to it. So if you imagine like UMass Lowell and somebody did a big, event thing all over there, and they had indoor spaces and outdoor fields, and we'd have, over 100,000 people over Labor Day weekend. So, and it was, and while we'd have, top acts, I mean, we had people like Kanye West and Bob Dylan and, I can go on, a lot of well-known people there, the Pixies, but, it was also about music discovery, and, we had different genres of music and everything. So I really immersed myself in an eclectic event. So when that ended, I wasn't really sure what I stopped. I ended working that at the end of 2014, and I had a little side company that's called Porter Productions that I had for my DJing and maybe some little events I do a little bit. And out of necessity, that kind of became my main thing. I had a couple of contracts fall in my lap, and I was thinking, all right, well, maybe I'll do this for a little while, but maybe I'll come back east. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then all of a sudden, a lot of different opportunities came my way. And so all of a sudden, my company became a thing, and I was doing events and working on venues in the Boston area and also in the Seattle area, and occasionally some other places, eventually in San Francisco as well. So, but around that time, so particularly, I think the seeds of the talks were actually in 2015, but I'd say in 2016 and 17, I was in a lot of discussions with, now City Councilor Bill Samaras, who was a friend of my mother's. He and his wife were friends of my mother's for a long time, and he knew what I did, but he wasn't sure. So we'd sit down, and he was like, could you? He was telling me a lot about the economic development that he and Ed Kennedy, who's now our state senator here, of course, wanted to bring in more events and do more economic development. And at the time, it was before Pete Lally and his crew came in. Not much was happening with the Lowell Auditorium. So they were thinking, is there something you could maybe help us with that? And I said, well, gee, guys, I don't really do venue management, but what I could do is maybe come up with a festival. Now, of course, there's the great Lowell Folk Festival, which, we know and love and been to many times. So I didn't want to step on the toes there or what happens at the concert series at Boarding House Park. But I thought, well, maybe I can do something in the fall or spring, and ended up being fall initially. Something that's inspired by what I've seen in a lot of other small cities. Because right now I'm very bullish about small cities, because the creative community has a really hard time affording the big cities. They're getting priced out of Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, New York. I can go on and on. So what's happening is a lot of smaller cities like Boise, Idaho, there's a great festival called the Tree Fort Music Fest, or in Knoxville, there's one called Big Ears, or is also, inspired by one in Iceland, in Reykjavik, which is a relatively small city, and it's called Iceland Airwaves. And what they are those venue hopping experiences. So you can get a wristband, a ticket, whatever, and that gets you into the, the different venues. Like, that could work in Lowell. And as a matter of fact, Lowell, in some ways, to me, Lowell was more attractive because you're near a huge urban center, Boston, obviously, and people, there's an airport nearby. There's commuter rail and 3 highways that either come near it or hit it. So I mean, the accessibility of it is very clear. It's right smack in the middle of New England when you look at the map. So I was like, and then it's such a nice walkable downtown. And I've been seeing, I found Lowell very inspiring, I'd say, particularly over the last 7 to 8 years, of just the cultural growth here. What goes on at Mill Number 5 and Western Ave Mills and all the cool places over on Market Street. I'll tell you, with all due respect to the old days, I mean, those things, in my opinion, never would have existed 25, 30 years ago in Lowell, but they can now. And like, there's some energy here. There's some energy I can feel. And I think it's, a lot of people have been here for a long time, and a lot of new people brought in some new energy. So I'm inspired. Let me come up with this. And so I didn't want to start a Kerouac themed event per se, because there's already Lowell Celebrates Kerouac event. But the folks who run that were very helpful too. But I wanted to come up with something that was sort of inspired by Kerouac, or sort of celebrating the spirit of Kerouac as far as exploration, discovery, love of life, those things he wrote about. And his first book, The Town and the City, was very much about Lowell. So I'm like, because while we give a nod to Kerouac, in a lot of ways, the festival is meant to be more of a celebration of Lowell. It's meant to be a celebration of music in the Lowell area and also in the region. I want a place for the Boston bands to come up and play too, because honestly, there aren't a lot of festivals in New England that they give a lot of opportunity for some local bands, or at least more the ones that do the rock and Americana and hip hop things. It's kind of very limited for them. So I thought, okay, that's something that we can do. So I came up with a little proposal, and Bill and Ed loved it, and other people, and all the venues. This was the other thing where I'm like, okay, this is the right place to do it. All the venues are like, yeah, sign us up. I remember, Patty over Gallery Z came up, and her place wasn't even on my radar, and she came to a meeting. It's like, I'd love you to do something in my place. And so we started off pretty pretty ambitious in some ways, actually, because I tend to do way too much work, and I'm not the best delegator. I'm a little better at it now, but that first year I just felt like we had to plant the flag in 2018 and get it going. And I worked my butt off. I mean, I work on some bigger festivals with tens of thousands of people, but this little one that's like we draw maybe like somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people, and kicked my butt because it's a new thing, and all kinds of new things have to come up. So, but we did it. It ran smoothly. We were like, okay, this is a thing. This can work. It's an investment. This is code for money lost. No, not really. It's an investment, because it does take a number of years.
We're building. Yeah, we're building it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy and proud to say in 2019, so we figured out what works, what doesn't. Let's tweak some things. The festival business is very odd, because if you have a restaurant and you try something, you're like, well, this doesn't work, we can change it tomorrow or next week. In the festival, you got to wait a whole year before you know if your new ideas are going to work. So it's a weird dynamic, but we tweaked some things, and got some more prominent bands who were interested in playing. And 2019, we saw a ton of growth. So of spectators, and then also of income, and all more sponsors came in. So it was like, all right, we're on to something here. All right, 2020, pandemic, never mind. We, of course, like everybody, we canceled that. And we did do an online presentation, but obviously that's not the same. I was grateful to do something, and keep the name out there. But yeah, we couldn't really look until really 2021. And then, okay, we were working very hard for October 22 and 23 for it this year. And then lo and behold, there's some COVID issues, maybe not as heavy and serious as it was in 2020, but it's still enough to affect us doing this properly, making it a really good experience for the performers, for the patrons, financially, also for everybody to be safe. So we made a very tough decision, although as we go on each day, I realized it was the right move. We ended up not canceling, but postponing to April 8 and 9 of 2022. It's interesting. My colleagues and I, we were daydreaming for, kind of riffing on some ideas months ago, like, should we have this as a spring festival? Or are we doing it on the right weekend? And well, here's our opportunity for the experiment, right? Forced experiment. We'll be seeing if April maybe works, and maybe we'll keep it in the spring from there on. I don't know, but I'm in it for the long haul. I want it to really work and become a staple of music and arts in New England.
Well, that's a fascinating story. I almost feel like I am not worthy. You have such great experience throughout the years. What have you heard from the performers and the venues about what this festival means to the city of Lowell?
Well, everybody was very disappointed when we had to cancel this last year, and then the move this year, although everybody was very supportive. I haven't really, there was disappointment, but it was like, we get it, Chris, it's fine, But this, well, one thing about the venues, for instance, I mentioned like some came up to us and wanting to be involved. I mean, they also, you know, it's astounding like how welcoming they all are. I don't think I'd be getting that in a lot of other places. They'd all be like, okay, you can rent my room for this much money. They kind of, a lot of them just donate their rooms because they just wanted to see it succeed. In fact, WARP is a sponsor on top of being a venue. So, I mean, that shows a lot of love there. And, you know, we're always looking to, you know, work with some new businesses here and there. But like the 𝗵𝗵𝗃, you know, where they're going to set up some bands kind of because they have a little space in the front. You know, we're looking at working with some other people too. But I think what it means to them is, you know, it's, well, I know, I'll give you an analogy. I remember talking to 𝐵𝗵𝗃𝗧𝙤, who's one of the owners of the Old Court, and 𝗵𝗃 is telling me, you know, they'd make a lot of money when there's a, you know, or a good amount of money when there's a concert at Boarding House, the Lowell Folk Festival, which is Christmas to the businesses around here, and then maybe something at the auditorium. And that was kind of it. And then a little bit of a Saturday crowd, but that was all that was kind of happening. So having another weekend, you know, happening, you know, meant a lot. I mean, they want to see more events. That's when people really come out and go to these places. And also even the gallery. I mean, not everything is a bar that we use. I mean, it's really important to me to have small age spaces. And like, that's why we added the 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗧𝙤 and, you know, working with the Academic Arts Center, which is owned, you know, by Middlesex Community College, and, you know, having those opportunities too. And then these places just want to showcase their rooms, or if they're a gallery, you know, they want people to see their art. So it just, and while I want something for locals, for Lowell and surrounding area people to come for sure, but I really want this, you know, one big reason for this is to bring people to Lowell, want to come to Lowell for a destination to experience this. And I remember after the first year, and I heard it even more so on the second year, you know, so many people, wow, this is really great. I didn't, you know, so I come to the folk festival once in a while, but I'm never in Lowell otherwise. I'll come back here more. I mean, the experience everybody had was really great. So that meant a lot to me. And that's the thing, you know, working on the Bumbershoot Festival for 18 years. And now I work on a festival in San Francisco called Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, which happens in Golden Gate Park. No direct Lowell ties to that, although one could say I walk the streets of Jack Kerouac on the West Coast and walk the streets of Jack in the East Coast. So in a way, there is that tie. But that's a big eclectic festival, sort of an Americana-leaning festival that I do there. But, you know, if I can take all that I've learned and all the contacts and everything that I, you know, the energy I get from all that I've worked on, and I can bring it back to my old hometown, as I said earlier, that means a lot. You know, that's, I want to, you know, I see this energy bubbling up from Lowell, and I want to help that along. We've got, you know, some more plans in the works, nothing I could talk about now, but just some things to kind of expand on and add to that. I'm so inspired by the visual arts community here. It's just massive, right? I mean, everything downtown and Western Ave boggles my mind. And there is a music community here, and that's been growing, but I'd love to kind of help that along as well. And all the arts, I mean, the theater and we have, and it has, you know, it has a potential, all of it to be bigger, I think. And like I said earlier, a creative community has a hard time affording the big cities. So they're moving to all these different places. And I know quite a few have moved to Lowell over the last 2-3 years because of that. And I'm like, great, come on in. We need that energy.
I totally agree. And you talked about how welcoming everybody is. And that's really one of the reasons why I love our community so much. It's how welcoming people are and how they're willing to try something new and embrace an idea and take it and run with it. So I think people are going to be so excited for April 8th and 9th, 2022 for the festival to come back.
Not just up there, like fingers crossed too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but it's just super exciting. And you mentioned people that come to Lowell for the Folk Fest, and what an amazing festival. But they'll see Lowell in a different way when they come to the Town and the City Festival, because it's
right, yeah, because it's really
festival,
going
they're
into
outside
business.
and everything's shutting down, the streets are shut down and everything. You get a really good view of Lowell and perspective of Lowell when you come to the Town and City Festival.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, to me, they're both wonderful showcases for the city. But we're really like, bringing you into the different businesses and galleries and spaces and whatever to really kind of experience it. It's more of an evening thing, although for this next one we are going to be dabbling into some afternoon things. First year that we'll have a record show, like a record fair over at Mill Number 5. And I'll probably have I'll have some bands playing there in the afternoon, and then we're probably going to do an early show like at the 𝗺𝗏𝗧 on one of the days. So we're dabbling into some daytime things a little bit, but it's more of an evening thing for now anyway. I mean, the dream is to grow it. It's meant to be venues all in walking distance, all in about a mile radius. But over time, maybe that'll expand. I don't know. And, we'd love to get to a point where we're big enough to have like, the little auditorium, a little more auditorium is like our main stage. But we're just not there yet. I want to grow things very organically and gradually so that we're on firm footing and, and people will dig. I mean, that's a great thing too with all these venues. They're all pretty small. I mean, the biggest one we use is Christchurch United, which is about 350 capacity, and then 𝗁𝗏𝗶 Music Hall is around 300, and then everything else is smaller, but it's they're intimate experiences. So and I like that. I think people appreciate that.
I totally agree, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're coming to Lowell versus going to the big cities for a festival, to get that experience that they wouldn't get in a big city. Is there anything else you want the viewers to know about the Town and the City Festival, or you, or anything else?
Go to the www.thetownandthecityfestival.com for news. It was a little awkward, we're literally taking a festival and trying to move it. It's almost like, taking a big bunch of dirt or grass, and you're hoping none of it drops on the floor, because it's like so much to move. But I'm happy to say, knocking on wood, that 95%, if not all, of the artists that we booked for October are able to go to April. Awesome. That was a big reason why we picked that weekend. But we may, now we've got a little more elbow room, and we're getting some really great support, financial support. See, I thought after the pandemic, or the main part of the pandemic, if you will, we're going to have to do something a little less ambitious than usual, because we probably won't have quite the sponsorship support. And I've been blown away with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which was one of our co-presenters. I mean, they've helped a lot financially. Senator Ed Kennedy's been huge, and we've gotten some contributions from the state. And then I've got Patrice, who you've met, we're helping out with sponsorship, and she's be able to procure a couple of great sponsors. So I've got at least, if not actually more support for the festival. So the reason why I bring that up is we might add to the programming. We're looking into some things might actually give us a little elbow room to add and promote some more things. So I encourage everybody to look at our website, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can. I always say that it's great to go and buy a ticket for something you really want to see, but to me, so much about festivals is about discovery. Find your new favorite band at a festival. So I encourage people to get a day pass, either a 2-day pass or a day pass. That's really more bang for your buck that way. It's $50 for the whole weekend, and you can go in and out.
Wow.
Capacity allowing, and go in and out wherever you can. You can buy individual tickets, and they usually run anywhere from $7 to $25, depending on the level of the show. But you really get way more bang for your buck if you get a day pass or a 2-day pass. And that's thanks to some state support and from our sponsors. We're able to keep the ticket price as low as we can. I'd love to get it lower in the future if we can, because I want this to be as accessible as we can. So anyway, I encourage people to come out and support and check it out, and hope to see everybody in April. All out. Don't have to worry about masks, and just can take it all in and enjoy.
And for the businesses viewing, you are still looking for sponsors. So if somebody's interested in hearing more, they can do that.
Yes, absolutely. Patrice Cleaves is my sponsorship person, and or they can reach out to me as well. Or probably what I'll do is just reach out to me. I'm at Chris at 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶, so PORTERPROD, short for Porter Productions. Chris at 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶.com. They can reach me that way, and I can connect them accordingly. And we'd love to get more businesses involved and to help spread arts and music in Lowell.
Awesome. I'll include both of your email addresses when I post this. That way people can just click while they're interested and get in contact with you. Well, thank you so
Nice.
much. And I was thinking, the day pass, the 2-day pass, that would be a great stocking stuffer this year. So if you're looking for something really unique, you can already check that off your list. Start your shopping early.
As a matter of fact, yes, we're like, okay, now that we've punted this to April, special Christmas promotion. So keep an eye out for that. We're already talking about that.
Awesome. Well, you can count on us to help spread the word with that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and the chamber. And it's so nice getting to know you even more, hearing about your impressive background and the impressive festival that you bring to the city. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot for you having me on, Danielle. Thank you for all your help and support.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. And thank you all for tuning in, and click right now on the website to go to the Town and City Festival website. Check out all the great stuff they have and even more to come. Thanks so much. Bye.
The Coalition for a Better Acre invests in communities, developing stable neighborhoods, and building futures. Since day one, Enterprise Bank has been CBA's leading local funder because Enterprise understands commercial lending, how to streamline the process, and make it easy, serving as a trusted advisor and partner. Whatever your idea of success, Enterprise can help get you there. Enterprise Bank. Create real success. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.